Hello, I think I'm all sorted. Okay, so, as you can see, if you know the game, today I am playing Patchwork, the lovely game of making a quilt. In I'm going to give a quick explanation of how you play, and then I'll get into it. I didn't know when I bought it that Patchwork was actually you could actually play Patchwork solo. Had absolutely no idea. But it was quite a nice thing to find out because I do like, obviously, well, I like my solo games. I'm doing it every Monday. And today it is a lovely, beautiful, hot summer's day. And obviously, I've decided to spend this day indoors playing a board game. Because who wouldn't want to do that? So, let's get down to how you play. In Patchwork, you are aiming to build a quilt using the patches that are arrayed around the edge here. Your turns are very, very simple. On your turn, you start the game with 5 buttons, like these lovely ones over here. I'm going to pop my button supply just on the inside of the ring here, so you can see exactly how much currency for Patchwork I have. Yeah, so on your turn, you have the ability to choose from the next 3 patches available in the line from the sewing machine, which starts the game in the next space along from the 2x1 patch. If you can afford the patches, you just choose whichever one you want to add to your board, take it, pop it on your board in any orientation that you want. You can flip it over, turn it round, do whatever you want with it. It costs the amount of buttons pictured on it here, and then you move the number of spaces pictured just next to that here. So for instance, I was to pick this patch, I'd place it on my board, spend 2 buttons to buy it, and then I would move my piece 2 spaces along the board. The turn order in Patchwork is determined by whoever is furthest back on the time track here. Pop that back over there. And you keep going, and keep going until you get to the middle of the board where the game will end. If you pass one of these button markers on the time track here, you will collect income, and you'll get 1 button for every button pictured on a piece that's on your quilt. If you don't have any buttons, you don't get any income. If you cross over one of these tiles, the little 1x1 tiles, the first person to pass over that space gets that tile and can add it to their board wherever they want. It has then been used and the other player doesn't have access to that. The only other thing that happens during the game is the first person to create a 7x7 grid will get this tile, which gets them a nice little 7 points at the end of the game. Now, normally, this is just a 2-player game. You'd both have one of these boards, so there's one in red to match up with the red tracker here, and there's also one in green to match up with this one, which I've just dropped. For the purposes of this, you only need 1 board for yourself. The automa doesn't actually build itself a quilt at all. It just has slightly different ways of scoring points at the end of the game, depending on the difficulty you're going for. There are 2 automa decks. One is your regular deck, which is this one, and the other one is the tactical deck, which has a button number pictured on the back. Today I'm going to do one game with each deck. Have a little bit of a break in the middle so I can go and get myself a drink. And I'm going to be playing the intermediate difficulty. Mostly because I'm not great at Patchwork. I might beat Jess pretty much every time we play, but it's not a game that I'm particularly good at. But I'm going to stick with the intermediate difficulty for both types of deck. The only other thing I'll explain is exactly how the Automa decks work. I'm going to get rid of the tactical deck for now, because the first game I play is going to be with this regular deck. So, the Patchwork Automa. It's done by Automa Factory, very well known for making brilliant solo options for a game. I know they work with Stonemaier quite a lot to do their solo versions and Automa decks. And it's nothing new here. It's really, really well done, really simple, and it works really, really well. So, you always take the first turn in the game. Then after that, like I said, it's whoever's furthest back on the track will take their turn. On the Automa's turn, you take the top card of the deck and flip it over. You then go through their card and determines a few different things. So, there is a number of buttons at the top which indicates how much this turn the Automa has to spend on any of the next 3 patches in line. So for this card, for instance, it would have 8 buttons. The Automa doesn't collect income throughout the game the same as you do. It's just when you flip a card, you'll get told exactly how much you have to spend. And then you work your way down the card, determining which patch it is that they're going to purchase next. And I'll quickly go through exactly how this works. So I've got a couple of cards here just to show you all of them and how it works. So the first one they're not always in the same order either, but I'm just going to use these to describe how the Automa works. So this one here on this card with the 8 on top, I'll use this card first. These symbols mean that the Automa will take whichever patch is biggest. So it covers the most spaces. So with the example here, this one covers 4, this one covers 5, and this one also covers 5. So it wouldn't ever pick this one, but it would now pick between these two. But it can't because they're the same size. So you then go to the next choice along, which in this instance is the patch with the most buttons on it, which then would be this one. So the Automa would purchase that because it does have enough buttons to buy it, and it just goes to one side. The last one on here is that the Automa will take the patch furthest away from the neutral token here. So in this instance, it would still take that one. So you'd then take the patch, and then once a patch has been taken, you move the neutral token to wherever that patch was. And then those are the 3 tiles that are available next from there. Pop them back. The other option that you have is this top one here, which is the Automa will choose the tile which advances it the least. So in this example here, this moves you 2, this 4, and this 5. So the Automa would choose this one. I think it's actually, I don't think it moves you the least. I think it might be the option that doesn't let it pass you, so it will get another turn. So if I was there, for example, and it had this one was the least, it would move 2 because then it would still be the Automa's turn. If I was only 1 space away from it, it then wouldn't choose that tile at all. It wouldn't choose any of those, and we'd move down to the next option. The last thing for the Automa and I'll go through how it scores at the end. Obviously I said when you pass these button markers on the time track, you collect income for every button that you have on tiles on your quilt. The automa works slightly differently. If it passes one of those button markers, it will earn a number of buttons equal to the number shown in the bottom corner of the current card that it's using. So for this card it would be +4, and for the other one it would actually get 0. But apart from that, it plays exactly the same way. I'll do a quick rundown of how the automa actually scores, because it does change depending upon the difficulty you choose. So for this particular game, the automa will score points for if it collects the 7x7 special tile, which it does if it goes past a certain space on the board, and this is where it's determined. It determines the difficulty. So I'll show you quickly the rule book here. So you can see this bit shows the time track, and next to it shows the amount of spaces away that you'll place your button marker to signify where the automa has to pass to earn that tile, because obviously it's not filling in a grid like you are. So for this particular game, I'll place a button marker here, right next to this one. So when the automa passes that mark, if it passes that before I've created a 7x7 grid, it will then get that to score points at the end of the game, and I will no longer have access to it. It will also score points for collected buttons, so that is for when it goes past the button marker. If it collects any buttons from the bottom corner of its card, they go towards its score at the end of the game. And then it will also score 1 point per collected patch with buttons. So if it picked up this patch during the game, that doesn't get it any extra points. Any patch that has a button on it, doesn't matter how many there are, the patch itself will just score 1 point for the automa at the end of the game. And all I'm trying to do is beat the automa's score, which I tend to do every other game that I play against it. So I think I'm just going to jump in and get playing, and we'll see how well this goes. I tend to play a lot of Patchwork on Board Game Arena, and even though I play quite a lot of it, I never seem to get any better. So let's see how well this goes for me. So I'll give these a shuffle before I start the game, because obviously I've seen the top 2 cards of the deck. To keep things a bit more random, you draw the top 2 cards and put them to one side, and they're not used for the current round. If you run out of cards for the automa, you shuffle those 2 back in, give the whole deck a shuffle, remove another 2 again, and then just keep turning cards. So I've got my 5 buttons to start the game with. Let's jump in. So you always take the first turn against the automa. And looking at these patches here, so I always like to get something with a button on early, so I know I'm going to get some income as I go along. So I'm going to take this patch. So that will cost me, dropping it there, cost me 3 buttons. Take those, pop them back into the supply. Move the neutral marker to there to show what the next 3 options are for purchase. And then I get to put this on my board any which way I want. I'm just going to choose to pop it up in that top corner there, like that. And then I move 4 spaces along the board. And that's as simple as a turn is in Patchwork. And it is now the automa's turn. So you take the top card of the deck and flip it. Oh, just happens to be one of the cards that we had when I was showing you in setup. So the automa this turn has 8 coins to spend. 8 buttons to spend. And we'll go down this list to see which patch it's going to purchase. So the first option is that it buys the patch with the most buttons on. It can afford that patch, so it is going to purchase this one. I'm going to make a stack here of all the tiles that will score the Automa points at the end of the game. I pop that there. And then for this tile, the Automa moves 6 spaces. 6. It does pass this button marker here, but because it has 0 in the bottom corner of the card, it gets no income for that particular move. And I've already moved the neutral marker along there. Okay. I'm now the furthest back on the board, so it is my turn. And I'm not particularly liking the options that I've got here. So my options are to choose between these 3. And I think I want to keep earning. So I can't afford this tile because that costs 3 buttons and I only have 2. I can afford the other 2, but I think I'm going to take this one. And it only cost me 1, so I'm going to pop that there. And I'm going to pop it in like this, which whenever I play with Jess seems to think it's a bad move because I've left this one space here, which can only be filled by one of these. But I know there's a decent chance that I'll be able to pick one of these up during the game and fill that space. And I then move 5 spaces along. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. During that, I pass this button marker. I currently have 2 buttons on my board, so I get 2 income. Got a little bit to spend again now. And it's then back to the Automa's turn. Oh, I forgot to move the neutral marker along. So same again, flip the top card of the deck. Okay, so this time the Automa has 1 button to spend. Now, it can't afford any of the tiles currently that are available. If it can't afford any of the 3 patches, the Automa passes its turn and moves along. So if you can't afford anything on your turn, you basically just have to move forward and move to the space in front of your opponent. You can choose to do this as well if you don't want to buy anything particularly at that moment in time. Normally what would happen is the number of spaces you move, you will get that much income in buttons. So for the Automa, this would move 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So if I was playing against a real opponent, that person would have just got 4 buttons from the supply. In this case, the Automa doesn't get anything. If it had passed one of the button markers, it would have still got its income. But in this instance, it gets nothing. And it then moves to my turn. Now, I also can't afford any of those 3 patches. I've only got 3, and the cheapest one is this one, which costs 4 buttons. So I'm going to have to do exactly the same as what the Automa's just done and move forward. So I earn 2 for moving past my opponent. So I'm back up to 5 buttons to spend. But I also passed this button marker here, which means I get another 2 buttons. I'm going to quickly swap out 5 of these for one of the 5 markers, just to keep things a little bit cleaner over here. But because I've done that and I've jumped over, it's just straight back to being the Automa's turn again. So I flip the next card. So it has 0 money to spend for this one, which means it can't buy anything. So it just moves past me in 1, 2 spaces. Now previously it didn't go past the button marker, so it didn't get anything. This time it does move past and it earns itself 5 buttons, which I'm going to pop down here, and that is just points for the Automa at the end of the game. So I now know it's got at least 6 points for these 2. Oh, I should have mentioned as well, for me, all buttons are points at the end of the game. And something I should have said at the top that I've just realised now, any uncovered space on my quilt board is -2 points at the end of the game. So I have to try and cover as much as possible, otherwise it's just negative points. Okay, so back to my turn, and I can now afford any of those pieces that I want. So I could be bold and go spend all my money on this piece and get that fitted in. Does mean I'd struggle for another round, but it could potentially be worth it. I think I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try and be a bit bold with this game. I'm going to slide it in there. So it costs me all of my buttons that I've just earned. Move that into the space, and then I move forward 2. And it is then back once more to the automa's turn. Flip that card over. Okay, now this time it's got some serious money to spend. It's got 10. Now it can afford any of those 3. Because it can afford any of them, we have to go to the track down here. So first one, it will take the patch that has the most buttons on it. So 2 of them actually have 1 button each. So there is no one tile that has the most buttons. So it doesn't take any of them for that. So we move down the card to the next automa choice. So this one is, it will take the biggest patch. So it's the patch that will cover the most spaces. Now I can tell at a quick glance how many of these cover, but sometimes it's a bit hard. So if you're not sure, you can always like place it on the board to count it out. But just looking at it, this one will take up 6 spaces, like so. This one takes up 5. So currently it is buying this one, but sorry, and then this one takes up 6 also. It's got 4 down the middle and 1 on each side. So as before with this, there is no option that is the biggest tile. So we move down again to the next space, which means it will take the one that is furthest away from the neutral marker, which is this one. And because that has a button on it, it's worth a point for it at the end of the game, so I'll add it to my stack here. Move the neutral marker along, and then that will move the automa 3 spaces. And that is the end of its turn. And it goes back to me. Now I have no income at all. Sorry, no, okay. I have no buttons to spend at all because I spent them all on that last patch that I got. Which means I have to jump over. I have to move to the next space along on the track. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 spaces. And for that I get 3 buttons. So I've got something to spend on my next turn. And it is then back to the automa's turn. So flip that top card, and it has 7 to spend. And once again, it's now these 3 patches here. It can afford any of them. So we have to go back to our list here. And it is exactly the same structure and flow as the last card. So first off, it's the one with the most buttons. So these 2 both have 2, so we have to discount that and move on to the next one, which is the largest tile, which this time is this one, which takes up 6 squares. The other 2 only take up 4. So we'll take this tile. It has buttons on it, so it adds to its income. We pop it there, and then slide this along. It has only moved once, so it's not super important to move it this time, but I like to keep going with it. I'm going to quickly shuffle these around a little bit just to give myself a little bit more room. It's the only problem I find when playing Patchwork is getting these tiles to sit around the board. Normally they just sit around this one central board and you'll have your own boards in front of you. I thought it was just a bit nicer set up like this. Right, then we come to my turn. Now I can only afford 1 of these patches. Oh, sorry, I forgot something actually. The automa needs to move 6 spaces. 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can buy this patch and it'll cost me 2 and then I move 2. Which is most of the income that I've got, but I think I never like to not buy a patch on my turn. I almost think of it as being a little bit of a waste, so I am going to buy that one. Slot it in there. So it costs me 2 buttons to purchase that one. I move forward 2 spaces, and I've just passed this button here, so I will get income equal to the number of buttons that are currently on my quilt, which I have 4. So I'm just actually going to swap that one out for a 5 there. Slide these around a little bit again. Oops. Should have moved that into that space. Previously, when the automa moved, it did go past that button space, but there is a 0 at the bottom of the card, so it doesn't get any income for that. I think probably for the first time this has happened, I'm still behind the automa. So previously we've been like alternating back and forth between turns. This time I get to go again because I'm behind the automa on the track. And because I did that move there, I've managed to get myself 5 to make a purchase. So I've got the choice of any of these 3. I can actually still only afford one of them, which is this one. But it only costs me 1 and moves me 2, which still keeps me behind and lets me go again. So I'm actually going to buy that one. So I'll spend my 5, so I get 4 in change. Pick up that tile. I'm going to start moving this immediately now, so I don't forget to do it. So I've slid that into the space there. I can now pop this anywhere I want on my board, and I'm going to choose to pop it right next to that one, get it tucked in. And then I move 2 spaces. So once again, I'm still behind the automa, so I get to take another turn. I am down to 4 buttons now, so I can only afford this tile or this one. I don't particularly like either of them to purchase right now. This one is probably the better one for me, because I can slot it in. So if I was playing with somebody else, I normally wouldn't do this because I'm on my own. I can move things around a little bit, so I could slot it there like that, or in the other side like that, but I think I like it in there. So I think I am going to purchase that one. So that cost me 1 button again. Move the marker into that space there. And then I move 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've gone past the button marker again. But this time I've added an extra button to my quilt, so I'm going to get 5 this time for my income. And then it is back to the automa's turn. Oh, I've just noticed Jess chatting here, telling me not to put things in a certain place, but I'll do what I want, thank you. So yeah, back to the automa's turn. Flip that card. The automa has 2 to spend. And looking at it, these cost 3, 8 and 4. So the automa actually can't afford any of them this time round. So it has to do what we've done previously and jump over me. It's going to land on that space there. Right before that 1 by 1 square tile. It does go past this button marker here, so it gets an income of 4 buttons. Just grab those, put them over here for its. So it's even more points for the automa at the end of the game. I'm going to have to score quite a lot to be able to beat it here. And then it's back to being my turn. Now, I can see there's a lot of different things that I can do here with, because I've got quite a. I can afford any of these tiles at this point. So like, this is a very good tile that I could pick up. Gives me 3 button income, covers a lot of tiles. But I actually want to go for this one, because I have a nice little gap here to fit it in, although it doesn't fill it completely, and there is another tile that could. I'm talking myself out of it now. Yeah, I'm potentially thinking I might spend quite a lot on this tile and get it in. So it'll cost me everything I've got, and I'm going for it. I told you I'm going to take risks this game. I'm going to pop it just into that slot there. So I'll move that along, and then I'm going to move 6 spaces because of that. So I go 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first thing I do is earn this little 1 square tile, and I have already got the perfect spot for it, so I'm just going to slot it straight in there. When you get one of those tiles, you have to place it immediately, so it's worth picking them up. Like if you're looking at it and thinking, oh, I know I've got a good place I can put that, it's worth picking it up and then you can just place it straight away. Obviously I've had that gap for a long time, so I've known that it's going to be something that I want to fill, so I've just sat on it and waited, and luckily I've managed to pick up the first one. I have also then gone past this button marker here, so I'm going to get some more income, and nicely for me, I've actually earned 8 this time, after adding those 3. So you see I've got 4 up here, 3 here and 1 there, so I get 8 income for that. But I have moved quite a few spaces, so it's giving the Automa potentially a good opportunity to pick up a few tiles here. Because it hasn't actually bought as many as it normally does. But it's its turn now, so let's flip that card. So this time it has 3 buttons to spend. Now it can't buy all of them this time because this one costs 4, but it can buy these 2. So the first thing it does is decide which one moves it. It wouldn't move it past me. Should make sure I've actually got the reading of that correct. Yeah, so the Automa takes the patch that costs so little time that the Automa's time token doesn't overtake yours. In this instance, both of them leave it behind me still, so we have to move on to the next one, which is the largest patch. They're both the same size, so that doesn't matter. Then we go to the final one, which is it takes the one furthest away from the neutral marker. So it will pick up this one. Now, I have been stacking them here because these all have buttons on. This one doesn't, so I'm going to pop this off to the side of the board because it doesn't count for points at the end of the game. It just takes it out as an option for me to purchase. Although I will show you this lovely little critter that it has on it here. Like, some of the artwork in Patchwork is absolutely fantastic. I'll try and get that set so you can see it properly. There we go. Pop that back away. Not doing a good job of showing it off there really, but yeah, if there's any particularly nice patches that I see on here, I will probably show them off because I think we've got I think it's the 2024 version or the anniversary one. Can't quite remember off the top of my head, but there are so many different versions of Patchwork. This just happens to be the one that I bought, and like they all play exactly the same. It's just the patches are different. Now for me, I wouldn't bother going and buying the other editions, but some of them do look really nice. Last thing I need to do is that tile moved the Automa 3 spaces, so I just move it along. 1, 2, 3. So this time it's the Automa's turn to take another turn. So I have to flip another card for it and then move it along as before. Okay, so this time it has 5 buttons to spend. And it can't afford this one, so it has 2 options here. And the first option on the card is it takes the tile that won't move it past me. So this one moves it 2 spaces, and this one will move it 4. So because it doesn't want to go past me, but this one would land it on me so it'd take another turn, it will take this tile. So I'll move it 2 spaces forward. And then, as before, I'm just going to pop it off to one side because that doesn't count for scoring for the Automa at the end of the game. You don't have to do what I've done here, but I like to stack them on top of each other to show whose turn it is next, so you always know whoever's on top, it's that person's turn next, or in this case, it's the automa's turn next. So this doesn't move anywhere, I could just slide it along a little bit. And then we flip another card for the automa. Oh, it has, I forgot something actually. It did move past a button marker there, and it does have a 1 down here, so it is going to earn 1 button. Glad I caught that before I flipped the card. So it's got another 1 there, so I'm actually going to swap. It would have 2 5s, so I'm going to swap them both out for a 10. Just so it's a little bit easier for me to track than having so many tiles down here. Okay, so it's turn again, so I flip that top card. This time it has 4 buttons to spend. So it can't actually afford all of them, it can only afford 1. And when the automa can only afford 1 of the tiles, it just buys that one. So I'm going to take that one. This one has a button on it, so we'll count for points at the end of the game. So stack it there and move that token along. And then the automa moves 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3. The automa has moved past this one, so it takes it off the board and is no longer available for me. It doesn't get any points for it at the end of the game, it just takes it off the board so I can no longer use it. Okay, my turn. So I've got 8 to spend. We're over here this time, so I've got these 3 options. Now, I can't afford this one because that costs 10. But I'm not a massive fan of the rest of my options here because I wanted to buy this tile because it would fit perfectly in this gap here, but unfortunately, because the automa's moved past it, I can't buy it. So I'd have to wait and hope that we circle the entire board again and come back around to it for me to be able to buy that one. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy the little tile here. So it's going to cost me 2. I'll slide it in that space there, I think. And then I only move 1 space for that. So pop that there. You might remember seeing me explaining the game with this tile, which means we've gone all the way around the board. So we're back at tiles we've already seen now and going through those. But because I'm still behind the automa, it's my turn again. And I've got a bit of a decision to make as to what I want to pick up here. So I know if I buy this one, I do get another turn. It's the same with this one as well. But this piece kind of gets on my nerves a bit because it's so awkward and it doesn't always fit with your plans for the game. So I think I'm going to choose this one. So it costs me 2 again, so I'm going to spend my 5 here and get 3 back. Down to 4 coins. I'm going to slide it into that spot there. So I'm getting close to filling up for my 7x7 grid. And then I move 2 spaces. So now my time tracker is on top of the automas, so it's still my turn. But because I've only moved forward 1 space, I still don't have a lot of very good options. I'm trying to think of what the best way to do this is. I think I'm going to take this piece. So it'll cost me 3. Pop them there. And I'm going to slot it into this gap here. So I'm only left with 1 now. Move the neutral marker up to there. And that one moves me 3. So 1, 2, 3. I've gone past the button marker here. So I'm going to earn income. And I've now going to have to do some very quick counting up. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm actually just going to swap this 1 button out for a 10. So I've got plenty of buttons to spend on my next turn, but for now it's the automa's turn. And this is the last card currently we've got, so I'm going to flip that one. And it has 6 income currently. It can't afford all 3, but it can afford these 2. So we have to go to the track. So the first option is it will take whichever tile won't advance it past me. Neither of them will. So then its next option is it will take the biggest tile, which is this one. So I'm just actually trying to check. No, it is that one. We'll pop it there because that one has a button on, so counts as points for the end of the game. And then I move it forward 3. So 1, 2, 3. It has gone past the button marker, but the 0 at the bottom here means it gets no extra income from that. But it is the automa's turn, but we've run out of cards, so we take back those 2 cards we put to one side previously, shuffle them all back together in the deck. Doing a terrible, terrible job of shuffling here on camera. Quick shuffle. You take 2 cards again, back out, pop them to one side, and then use the rest of the deck. So first, so it's still the automa's turn. Slide that along a little bit. And flip the top card. So it has 5 buttons to spend this time. It can afford 2 of the tiles. It still can't afford this long one here, but it can afford these 2, which cost 4 each. So the first thing to note is it will buy whichever one will advance, which won't advance it past me. All of them will at this point because it's on top. So the next marker is that it will take the tile with the most buttons, which happens to be this one, which has 2. So I'll take that. Because it has buttons, it counts as points at the end of the game. Move the neutral marker along, and then this time it moves 6 spaces. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first thing, that patch is now gone. Second thing is it's gone past the button marker here, so it earns income, which this time is just 1 button, shown at the bottom corner. That. And it has now gone past this button that I popped on the board at the start of the game, which I now remove, but it does mean that the automa now gets this 7x7 tile. So that's an extra 7 points at the end of the game for the automa. And I'm not going to lie, it's not looking good for me here now. I'm thinking I might lose quite badly. But no, we'll see. I told you I wasn't good at Patchwork when we started. But the automa's now gone way past me, so it's my turn. And I have the lovely choice of these 3 tiles, and I've got 10 to spend, so I can afford any of them. But at this point I'm trying to fill up as much space as possible so I don't get all the negative points at the end of the game. But I do also want some nice income, I think. I think I might take a chance. I'm going to buy the one that costs me 10. Slide it into that gap there. It cost me all of my money. Move that into that space, and then I move 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've gone past the button marker here, so I'm going to earn income. This time I've got 4, 7, 10, 12. So I've just earned all that 10 back that I spent, which is nice because I still, which is nice because I'm still behind the automa, so it's still my turn. I'm only 1 space behind, but it does mean that I do get another go. And ideally, I want to move past this marker so I can fill this gap in here. So it's just an extra little bit at the end of the game. I think I might take... I could take this one. Or I could take the big H tile and pop it in this corner here. Yeah, I think I'm going to take that, pop it in there. So it's going to cost me 2 and moves me 3. So I go 1, 2, 3. So I just moved past this tile here. I'm going to pop it in that one. It doesn't really matter if I fill up that space or that space. Both of those spaces on the board can only be filled by those little 1x1 tiles. But I'll choose to fill that one in. Slide that around. And it's the automa's turn. There's not a lot of patches left now. Oof, it's got 10 to spend, so it can afford any of these 3 tiles. So its first option is it's going to take the tile which has the most buttons, which is this tile that I was going to take, which has 2 on it. So add that to the stack of points it's going to get at the end of the game. move that around a little bit. And it will move 5 spaces for that one. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's gone past the button marker again, but it's getting 0 again this time. It's not earning a lot from going past those button markers this game. And we go back to my turn. Now, I've spotted a nice little gap for this tile here. But I also know that I can buy either of these two before it, because they only move me 2 spaces. So I'm just trying to see. I think this is probably my better option. So I'm going to spend 4. So I'll put my 10 and get 6 back. And I'm going to buy this one. Pop it into that space like that. So I move 2 and move that to there. And I am then going to buy this one, which costs me 3. So I'm going to put my 5 down and get 2 back. I'm going to pop it in this nice little gap here and get that filled. Which then moves me 1. So I've gone past the button marker, so I'm going to get income again. It's a lot of buttons I've got to count up now. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 this time around. So I'm going to take a 10 and 3 of these. I'm not going to swap these out at this point. I'm just going to keep them there as single ones. But once again, because I'm now stacked on top of the automa, it's still my turn. So I've planned this out quite well in my head. I think that I'm going to get like 3 turns in a row here. Can't buy that one anymore. So my current options are these 3 tiles. I can afford any of them, but this piece and this piece I can no longer fit on my board because I've only got this little strip section down at the bottom here. So unfortunately, the only one I can take is this one, which I do think I want to take because it fills up a nice chunk of space, but it doesn't leave me with a lot of options at the end, but I am going to buy it. So it costs me 10, let's use my 10 tile there, and moves me 3. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And I've moved past this one, so I'm going to cover that space there. And it is then the automa's turn. Oh, sorry, I need to move that into that space before I do that. Flip it. So the automa's got 7 to spend. It can't afford this one, but it can afford either of these two. And the first option on here is it takes the tile with the most buttons, which is this one. So it gets added to the stack of points, and we move that marker down to there. And then it will move 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's now 1 space just before the end of the board. And it's my turn. And I only have a little 2 space and a 1 space here, which means I can't go. I can't buy anything at this point because nothing will fit on my board. So you can't have things. I couldn't buy that, for instance, and just have it hanging off. I just have to buy nothing and just move forward. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So I've now reached the end of the game. My game is now over, but I still earn button income right at the very end. So I'll just quickly count up that. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Pop those 2 there. And then the last thing that's going to happen is it's the automa's turn. So flip 1 last card for it. So it has 6 to spend. Can afford either of these 2 patches. It will first off take the pass that advances, won't advance it past me. It can't do it at this point, so none of those are an option. It will then take the biggest patch. Both of them are 6 tiles, so then it will just take the patch that's furthest away from the neutral marker, which is this one. This one doesn't have anything on it, so it doesn't count for points at the end of the game for the automa. And that, with that, it moves 2 spaces, also reaches the end of the game. Would earn button income, but luckily again, it's got a 0 at the bottom of the card, so doesn't earn anything. Now obviously you can see We've cleared out a lot of the patches from around the edge of this board here. I've actually filled my board up really, really well. So, we'll very quickly calculate scores. Now, my score is just based on how many buttons I've got at the end of the game, minus these spaces. So I've got 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 buttons there. And each space left at the end of the game is -2. So I'm going to lose 6 buttons. So I'm just going to take all of these away. So I end the game with 15 points. Now, the more eagle-eyed of you will probably be looking at this and knowing already that I have lost this game. Because the Automa already has 10, 11, plus this 7 for 18, so it's already beat me there. But just so we know how badly, we'll count up all of these as well. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the Automa has scored 26 points at the end of the game on intermediate difficulty. So I've lost by 11 points. Even without my minuses, I didn't beat the Automa. So you can obviously see how difficult it can be. Yeah. So I'm going to very quickly have a little break and then jump back. Instead, this time I'm going to play with the tactical deck. I'm still going to do intermediate difficulty. The difference between the standard deck and the tactical deck is you can see at the top of the card, before you flip it, the number of buttons that the Automa is going to have to spend on its turn in the game. So it just means that I can be a little bit more, let's give this a quick shuffle, tactical about the way I think, because I'll know what it can and can't afford on its turn. So it's a lot more like playing with another player, I think, the tactical deck. Like the standard deck is perfectly fine and gives a brilliant challenge, but I think the tactical deck might bring something else to it. So I'm going to go have a quick break, and then I will be back. I'll get reset up before I come back, and we'll play around with the tactical deck. See you in a minute. Okay, I am back. Reset of the board completely. I have flipped over the time track just to the other side, just to show it off that there are two sides, and the other side's quite nice as well. Still on. I've been calling it intermediate difficulty, but I've gone back to the rulebook and found out that it's called fellow as the third level of difficulty. So it's exactly the same setup as before. I've just randomly distributed the tiles around the edge of the board. This time the 2x1 tiles ended up here, so the neutral markers popped down there. I once again begin the game with my 5 buttons, and I'm going to take the top 2 cards of the Automa deck, pop them to one side because they're not going to be used in the first run of this. And it is my turn to go first. So obviously I can see that the Automa, obviously we swapped over to the tactical deck, the Automa's going to have 8 buttons to spend on its turn. It's not really mattering to me too much at this early stage of the game. But having that knowledge might come into play a little bit more later. So I can only afford this tile right at the very beginning because I don't particularly want that one because it costs a little bit too much for what I want right now. If it had buttons on it, I'd probably buy it. But I'm instead just going to choose to move my piece forward 1 space, which just gets me 1 button. But it just immediately passes the turn over to the Automa. The Automa's going to score in exactly the same way. There's no difference there. The only difference is the back of the deck, just giving me a little bit more knowledge. Okay, so we're going to flip the first card. Has 8 to spend, and its first option is it can afford these 2. Can't afford this one because that costs 10. It's going to buy the tile that takes up the most spaces, which is this tile here. It's going to buy that one, slide that round, and then it will move forward 2 spaces. So just hops straight over me. My turn. Oh, these tiles are just not looking good at all. I think I'm going to take a bit of a chance. So I am going to buy this one now. So it's going to cost me 3. So I'll spend my 5 and get 2 back. I keep popping it with the rest of them. I should really pop it with keep all the 5s together up there. And moves me 1 space. I've done this because I know I know that it gives me another turn. Move that into there. And I'm then going to buy this one. Not just because they have the same pattern, which I've only just noticed that they do, and I'm wondering if they will actually fit together. Oh, they don't really, but anyway, I'll slide it in there like that. So that one costs me 1. Slide that along, and then I move my piece forward 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've gone past a button marker. I have 1 button, so I earn 1 this time round. Okay, so it's the Automa's turn. I know it's going to have 6 to spend, but there's not really much I can do using that knowledge right now. But I think further round here, I'll be able to use it a little bit more. Okay, so it has these 3 options. It has 6 to spend. It can afford all of them. So first things first is to check the card. So it's going to take the one that has the most buttons first. These 2 both have 1, so that's not going to change anything. Next is the biggest tile. Now this one has 5, this one has 6, but the H one here has 7, so it is going to buy that one. For the Automa, like before, because it doesn't have any buttons on it, it's not worth points at the end of the game, so we're just going to pop it to one side over there, move the neutral marker along, and then that will move 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3. It has gone past the button marker, but it doesn't earn any income for this one. But it is still behind me, so it's its turn again. I haven't had a chance to use my new knowledge yet, but we'll soon see if I can. So I'm going to flip its card again next. It has 6 again to spend, and it can afford all of them. Wow, it's almost got a lot of spending power at the start of this game. So we're going to have to follow the course of the card. So the first thing to look at, I'm just going to slide these around a little bit here while I'm going, is it will take the tile that won't advance it past me. Now all of them will do that, so we have to discount that straight away. The next thing is it will take the biggest tile. And looking, both of these take up 4, but this one takes up 6. So it is going to buy that one. It does have a button, so it is worth points at the end of the game for it. So I'll add that there. And then slide that marker along. And then the Automa's token will move 5 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Leaving it just before that marker. It's then my turn. Now I've only got 3 to spend, so I can only afford this tile. But this is where my knowledge now gets to come into play. I can see that the Automa only has 1 to spend on its next turn. So it isn't going to be able to buy anything currently, because nothing is worth 1 until we get to here. So until that becomes an option, the Automa can't buy anything. So I know that if I can either stay behind it or force it to take that turn, it can't buy anything. So I know I'm pretty safe in being able to buy this right now. I'm going to slide it in at the top there. So it costs me all my buttons currently. And I move forward 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Slide that. I have no money at all, so I have to move. But I also know that the Automa can't afford any of these patches, so he's just going to have to jump straight over me again. So I'll do my move first. So I go 1, 2. I've moved 2 spaces, so I get 2 money. I've also gone past the button marker, so I get another 2 money. And it's then the Automa's turn. So we take the card and flip it. I already know that the Automa can't afford anything at the moment. So the Automa, the only thing it can do on its turn is jump over me. So it goes 1, 2 spaces. Normally it would earn 2 for that, but the Automa doesn't earn buttons that way, like we've done previously. It has gone past this button marker, so it does earn 4 buttons. Now, knowing from the previous game, the margins aren't massive. Like, I did lose by 11 points, but that's 4 straight away for it. So that's not the greatest thing for me to have. Okay, this time I'm looking at this. I know the Automa's got 4 to spend on its next turn, so it could buy this one. I know if I buy that, or I move past it, the Automa can't buy anything, so I'll get another free round without it being able to do anything. So I think that is potentially what I'm going to do here. I'm going to buy this piece, spending all my 4. I don't know if I'm leaning too heavily into knowing about what it can and can't do, but we'll see. I'm going to pop it in that space there. Reshuffle my tiles a little bit. And then move the neutral marker along into that gap. And then I move 6 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've gone past the button marker, so I get income. I'm just going to get those 4 back that I just spent. So I think that's a net positive overall for me. Obviously I've lost time, which it's funny to think about in this game that the tiles and the buttons are resources, but time is such a crucial resource as well. You have to manage your time way more than you think you do when you first play. Like, I think the first game we ever played of this, I was just going, oh, I can buy that tile, get that one, get that one, get that one. I was just buying whatever I could whenever. And I was more focusing on which tiles had the most buttons on and which ones I could afford, rather than, I didn't even consider time being a thing. Well, I'm a bit further along into my Patchwork life now, so I know I need to take a bit more care. Anyway, it is now the Automa's turn, so we flip this card. I know it has 4 to spend, but the next ones in line are worth 10, 5 and 10, so it can't afford any of them. So the only thing the automa can do is jump over me. It does go past the button marker, so it earns income, and for this card it is 1 button, so I'm just going to take these 4 and swap them out for a 5. Like, already I can see a difference in how I'm playing the game. That could be for worse or for better, I will only know at the end. Okay, well, it has now gone past me, so it's back to my turn. And the most annoying thing for me now is that I can't afford any of these tiles, so I am just going to have to jump straight over, which does get me 2. So pop those over there. Everything else remains the same, it's just the automa's turn again. Flip that card. This time it has 3 to spend. Still can't afford anything. So we are just trading backwards and forwards here, one of us buying, the other one not moving. So we're going to go, it's just going to jump over me for 1, 2, and it gets nothing else because it's done nothing else this turn. And it's then my go. Now I can see the automa's got 1 that it can spend on its turn. And the next one up is this one here that's worth 1. It can only buy it if it's within the next 3 tiles. But the only one I can afford is this, which would let it buy that. But buying that doesn't gain it anything at the end of the game. So I'm thinking potentially that's worth it for me. It could end up potentially being bad, but I think I'm going to go ahead and buy this one. So I'm going to spend 5. I'm trying to think about this in ways that it's forcing the automa to buy things that don't get it anything. So I'm going to move the neutral tile on there, and then pop my new tile in place, and then move myself a 5. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've gone past this button marker here, so I get income, and this time I'm earning 6. Take a 5 and a 1. So what we're doing, I've earned a chunk of more buttons there, so I'm slowly ramping up my income as we go along. But it's now the automa's turn. Now, I know straight away there's only one thing it can afford, because it has one to spend and it's got a 10, a 1 and a 3 to deal with. So this is the only one it can buy. So it's going to buy that one. So we move the neutral marker along. This isn't worth any points for at the end of the game, so it's really worth me making it buy this, because it doesn't get it anything. And then it will move 2 spaces. Now, obviously I can't see further into the deck, but this time it has 8 to spend. So let's flip this over and see where we go. So it has 8, it can afford any of the next 3 tiles, which are these 3. And looking down the card, the first option is it will buy the tile with the most buttons on it, which is this one. So it is going to buy that. We move the neutral marker into that space. This has buttons, obviously, so it is worth points for the automa at the end of the game, so we're going to pop it on there. And the automa will then move 4 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4 onto this space here. The only slight difference between this side and the other is that instead of these being between spaces, they now are a space. So the automa takes that one. Obviously doesn't earn any points, but does mean that I don't have access to it. It did move past the button marker, but gets no income for it for this turn. Which means it's now my turn, and I know that it has 10 to spend on its turn, so it's probably going to be able to buy anything, so I need to discount that from my thinking altogether and just really take a look at what I need. So if I move 2 spaces or less, I will get a second go, which could potentially be useful, but the only thing I can buy that does that is this tile, which doesn't really do a whole lot for me. And I think I'd rather buy something that pushes me forward. So I'm going to buy this one. So it'll cost me 2, just these 2 buttons that I've got here. I'm going to slot it into this side like that. Do I want to do it? No, because that leaves a gap. I'm going to do it that way. Slide it in there, and then I move 3 spaces. Oh, I forgot to move that along again. So I'm back in front of the automa. It's the automa's turn, so we flip that. Okay, so the automa has 10 to spend. I know it can buy whichever tile it wants. I think the most expensive tile is 10, so it can buy anything. This time round, it's going to take the tile that takes up the most spaces, which just straight at a glance is this one, because it takes up 8. So it's going to buy that. It is worth a point at the end of the game for it, unfortunately, but there's nothing I can do about that. Move these pieces around a little bit. And then the automa will move 3. So 1, 2, 3. Past that button space, but it doesn't earn anything. So the cards where it has more income to spend on that turn tend to generate it nothing when it moves past the button space. So I'm trying to use my knowledge of it to make sure whenever it moves past a button space, it doesn't get anything extra. Obviously, I also need to try and make sure that I'm able to do things as well, but that's part and parcel of this game, really. Okay, so we're back to my turn, and I might have to start being a bit more risky again here, because I can already see that it's probably going to get that 7x7 tile before I am. But I've got 5 to spend, and I'm currently debating whether I take this so I get a second go, because I'll get my income back, so I'll earn 7 after I've bought this, and then I can spend on whatever I want. Or I can buy this one for the space and the buttons, but I think I'm going to play a little bit more conservative this time, because I know it has 10 to spend on its turn, so I need to make sure it's buying things that don't get it points, ideally. So I'm going to buy that, move this forward into that space, and then I'm going to move, I'll pop it in first, and slide it in that gap there, and then I move 2. Oh, forgot to actually spend my 5 there, so I get 3 back. And then I earn my button income, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for this. So we'll take a 5 and another 2. Then it's still my turn. Now I'm looking at this thinking I ideally want it to buy either of these 2 tiles on its next option, because they get it nothing at the end of the game. So I'm going to spend that 7 that I've just earned and buy this one to try and force it almost into getting one of these. I'm going to pop that down this side here, and that moves me 1 space. It's then the automa's turn. We flip it. Now unfortunately it has 10 to spend, and it's going to buy the one that with the most buttons on it, which is this one, which would have cost it nothing anyway, but it does mean that it's a point at the end of the game for the automa, but unfortunately nothing I can do about that. Shuffle that down, and the automa moves forward 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. So it's taken another one of these off me. That's all spaces that I could have filled at the end of the game if I'd taken them. Leave that there for now because it's my turn. I've got 3 that I can spend, so I've got a couple of tiles that I could buy. I'm going to spend 2 to begin with and buy this one. I'm going to slot it in there, so move that down, and then I move forward 2, and because I'm on top it's still my turn. I'm going to go ahead and buy this one next, which cost me my last 1, and get it slotted in this space here, I think. And then move that down, and that one moves me 2. And it is then the automa's turn. We've run out of cards, so I'm going to bring back the 2 we discarded previously, shuffle them all back up, take the top 2 out, and then we go again. So I'm going to flip that top card. It has 4 to spend. It can afford these 2 tiles this time round. So the first thing it's going to do is take the tile that will advance it to not go past me, which is unfortunately this one. It's going to move 2, move that into there, and then that's a point for it at the end of the game. It's racking up the points now, unfortunately. And because it's done that, it's still its turn, so it gets to go again. This time it only has 1 to spend, which means it can't actually buy anything, so it's just going to move forward 1 space. It does take it past that button marker, so it earns 4. Because that, obviously that's what's in this bottom corner of the card here. It's got quite a lot of points already. It's then my turn. I can't do anything because I have no buttons, so I just have to advance. So advancing gets me 2, because I moved 2 spaces, and then I'm gonna, because I've now gone past that same button marker, I get to earn my income, which this time is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm actually gonna chuck these 2 back and swap it for a 10. And then we're straight back into the automa's go. It has 8 to spend. And its first option is the tile with the most buttons again. It can't afford this one because that costs 10. Can afford these 2. And it's going to take this one because that has a button on it, whereas this one doesn't. So we'll add that to its stack of points. Move the neutral marker down, and then it will move 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now annoyingly this time the automa's been taking every single one of those 1x1 tiles, which has left me struggling a little bit to try and fill in some spaces. Right, let's have a look and see what I've got here now. So I've got 10 to spend. I can actually buy any of these 3 currently, because these 2 are both worth 10, and then this one's worth... sorry, these ones both cost 10, and this one costs 6. In an ideal world I wouldn't go past the automa, but I can't buy any of them without going past it, so I think it's just figuring out which one's worth the best for me. So for instance, this one moves me the least, and it gets me the same button income as this one, but this one's probably more useful to me as a tile and reduces the options for the automa on its next turn as well. It has 10 to spend, so it could afford any of these, which worth the points for it. But I think I'm going to go ahead and buy this one, so it costs all of my money again. I'm going to slot it into that space there, move that down, and I'm going to move forward 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've gone past this marker here, so I'm going to earn income, which is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. So I get my 10 back plus that one. And it's then the automa's turn. So straight up flip that card. It has 10 to spend. Its first option is to buy the tile that takes up the most spaces. This one only takes up 3, but this one and this one both take up 4. So we move on to the next one, which is the tile with the most buttons on it, which is this one. So we'll move that round. Now that is just points at the end of the game for the automa again. So I'm struggling a little bit here, trying to bring this back, I think. The automa will then move 6 spaces. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, takes another one of those off the board for me. And it has gone past the marker that I'd set down. So it gets that at the end of the game. It is not looking very good at all for me here. This could be an even worse loss than the previous round, but well, I'll see what I can do to bring it back a little bit. So we're up here now, so I've got these 3 as my options for my next turn. And I'm 4 spaces behind the automa currently. So I'm trying to figure out the best things for me to do to maximise my turns, spend as little as I can, but fill up as much of this board but I also need to earn income at the same time. Especially knowing that the automa's got the option to spend 10 on its next turn. I think because of that, I'm actually going to go ahead and buy this one. So it only cost me 3, so I go lose my 10 and get 7 back. I'm going to slot it into this gap here. It's a very tight fit, that one. And it moves me 6. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've gone past the bottom marker again, so I get more income. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 this time. So I'm getting quite a lot here. Hopefully this means that I can get a bit more towards the end of the game than I did last time, but still fill up my board as much as I can. That just moves to there. It's the automa's turn, and I'm hoping that it's just not going to be able to buy the most useful things for it. Unfortunately, it can. So it's going to buy, it has 10 to spend, so it can afford anything. And it's going to buy the one with the most buttons on it, which unfortunately means it's another point at the end of the game for the automa. So I'm going to slide that down to there. The automa then moves 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I know I'm guaranteed to take this because I have to move past the automa before it can go. So I have to plan my turn around knowing that I can fill an extra space in. But I also know that I can only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces that I can move before the game ends. So I have to fill as much as possible whilst also making sure that the automa takes as little points as possible. So I'm going to buy this little one here. So it cost me 2. Move down to here, and I move 1. So it's still my turn. None of these move me only 1, but the only one that ends the game for me is this one. So as long as I'm careful, I can make sure that I can still fill as much as possible before the end of the game. Let's have a look, see what I can do. So I'm definitely not buying this one, I know that. I could buy this one, which only moves me 3. And then I'm relying on the automa buying certain things to give me the options that I need. But I know it has 3 to spend on its next turn, so I know actually that it can't buy any of these. But it will be able to buy this one if I purchase anything. I'm thinking I might buy this because it leaves the automa with the least amount of options on its turn. Yeah, I'm going to purchase that piece and slide it into that space there. So it cost me 10. Move that over to here. And then I move forward 4 spaces. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm only 1 space before the end of the game. I finally got myself one of these. It's when you look back now, and if I'd have picked up 2 more, that's another 2 squares covered. If I'd managed to get all of them, that's an extra 4 squares. That's 8 points at the end of the game that I'm losing because I didn't manage to pick those up before the automa. Well, let's see what it does. So, it has 3 to spend. It can afford either of these 2. The first thing it does is it will take the one that advances it so it doesn't go past me. Both of them do that for it. The next option is it will buy the one that it has the most buttons on it, which is this one. So it will purchase that and then move forward 2 spaces, remains behind me and takes another turn, which might still not end the game for it depending on what happens. So it has 6 to spend. So first off, it will take the one with the most buttons. None of them have buttons, so it won't take any of them. It will next take the one that takes up the largest amount of space. Both of these two take up 6, so it won't buy either of those. And then finally it will just take the one that's furthest away from this marker, which is this one. Doesn't get it any points at the end of the game, so pop that to one side. And it will move forward just one space, so it is going to get another turn, which is very unfortunate for me. We flip that. It has 1 to spend, and this time only one of them can actually be purchased. So it will go ahead, buy that one. It's the one with the little mouse ferret creature on it. Not quite sure what it is. Pop that to one side because it doesn't score any points at the end of the game, and we move that into this end zone here. This moves around, so I have one final turn to make things a little bit easier. I'm going to move everything around to the bottom here. So my choice is between these 3 tiles for the end of the game. I can afford these 2. I can't afford this one because I only have 9 to spend and not 10. This one takes up a couple of more spaces but costs a little bit more and only gets me 1 extra button at the end of the game. Time is irrelevant at this point because I only have 1 space that I can move. I'm now looking and I don't actually think I can buy this one because I don't think there's anywhere I can put it on my board. Looking at it, which means I have to buy this one. So I'm going to spend 6, buy this one, pop it in this corner to keep things a bit neater. Doesn't really mean anything to move that, but we'll move that into the end there. I'll earn my final bit of income, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I've got 18 this time. So I'm actually going to take that 20 and put 2 back. I've done slightly better, but unfortunately I now have to do my final scoring and lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 empty squares, which is minus 2 points. I lose that 20. I've scored 1 point at the end of this game. Much, much worse. But you can see how important it is to actually get these fields filled. I think I was spending too much time overthinking what the automa was doing. We'll quickly check and see how many points it's got. So it's got 9 in button income. Scored that 7. So that's 16. And then we'll count up these quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 26. It scored 26 points again. So it scored exactly the same as it did previously, and I'm worse off by 10, 11 points. Instead of losing the game by 11, this time I've lost the game by 25 points. Done significantly worse. I think that is all down to me overthinking this tactical deck, and I probably should have just been focusing more on what I was doing. I think I earned way more buttons in that last game, but definitely didn't do anywhere near as well. Yeah, that's a couple of games of Patchwork there for you, with me showing off how absolutely terrible I am at it. If you ever do want a game with me, I am available at any point to play Patchwork. I am on Board Game Arena. My name on there is Torvun, Torvunn. So if you want a game, find me on there and add me, and I'll quite happily play Patchwork and just get beat by you over and over and over again. I think at some point I might stream myself playing on BGA, playing against other people rather than the automa, but I do actually really like the automa in this because it's so simple the way it works. Obviously Patchwork's not a difficult game, but to keep it really streamlined, I think it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think it works really well. Yeah, as always, if you've got any suggestions for games that I could play solo, absolutely give me a shout. More than happy to take on board anything. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap things up, and I will see you all next week for some more Monday solo gaming. Thank you very much.